Welcome to Dumpster Times number 23. As you can see, I'm outside of one of my numerous homes scattered around this city and many other cities. I have more houses than Bernie Sanders, though probably not as valuable. I am so glad you're here for issue number 23. It's amazing to me that I've managed to go 23 weeks putting this out. Don't go back and look at the first ones because they were crazy and they might not have been weekly, but I'm getting a little better, I think, but I need some feedback from you. If you would leave comments, I would be very grateful. You don't need so much to like or subscribe. I mean, subscription is a convenience because then automatically the DTs will show up in your feed, but I'm not in it for monetization. So I'm not begging you for a subscription so that I can get 2,000 subscribers. I don't need more money. And I'll do another video about my financials another time. But today, I just want to talk about some end-of-life concerns that have cropped up during the week, and we'll go over them if you just come on inside. All right, have a seat. Let's talk about some serious issues that a lot of people don't like to talk about. Things involving death. And we're going to start today with a story that is about Diana Rigg, who died about 3 years ago. And now her daughter is opening up about how horrific her death was and how Diana wanted to end it, but there was no legal way for her to do so. Let's start with a trigger warning. This does deal with cancer and how cancer ends in the human body. It's not pleasant. Diana Rigg's daughter opens up about actors' final days. The Avengers star was a passionate advocate of assisted dying. Over here, we have assisted living, don't we? But that kind of living, is it really living? And you're on your way to dying. So anyway, we'll get to that in just a few minutes. On with the daughter of the late Diana Rigg. Rigg, known for her roles in The Avengers, James Bond, and Game of Thrones, died of cancer in September 2020 at the age of 82. Her daughter, the actor Rachel Sterling, wrote about her mother's death and her passionate advocacy of assisted dying in a new piece for The Observer. According to Sterling, Rigg told her daughter to push me over the edge the day before she died, following months of unbearable pain and a raft of other worsening symptoms. Sterling was, however, unable to comply. I think I've rather gone off God, Rigg also said the same day. I think he's fucking mean. Rigg's support for assisted dying may have intensified in the months leading up to her death, but the actor has been an advocate of the practice for a long time, Sterling reveals. In the UK, assisted dying is currently illegal, although polls suggest that a significant majority of the public support changing the legislation to allow it. I had known of my mother's views on assisted dying for years, Sterling wrote. In her last few months, she became increasingly adamant that the law should be changed. And so we recorded her statements on assisted dying to be released after her death. Rigg's statements on assisted dying are shared within the article. I've always spoken out, she said. I spoke out when I was very young doing The Avengers and learned I was earning less than the cameraman. I received universal opprobrium. I was called money grabbing. I spoke for peace in Vietnam, in Northern Ireland. I marched for peace in Iraq. I stood up for what is right. I speak my mind. If I see something is unfair, I do my best to address it. I think this is unfair. I have cancer, and it is everywhere. And I have been given 6 months to live. Yet again, we found ourselves in the bathroom this morning, my beloved daughter and I, half laughing and half crying, showering off together. And it was loving and it was kind, but it shouldn't happen. And if I could have beamed myself off this mortal coil at that moment, you bet I would have done it there and then. Rigg went on to lament the truly awful details of her condition and the ignominy that went with it. She claimed that it was high time for a movement in the law. This means giving human beings true agency over their own bodies at the end of life. This means giving human beings political autonomy over their own deaths, she added. R.I.P. Diana Rigg. You should not have had to suffer. Let's juxtapose this story from locally here in the Akron, Ohio area with your story, end-of-life issues. Here we have robots joining in the fun at assisted living facilities. Hi, robot. Senior facilities in Copley Fairlawn roll out new helpers amid staff shortages. The robots have arrived and they are here to help. Just ask the residents at 2 senior care facilities in Summit County that now have a robot friend to interact with, thanks to community development block grant funds from Summit County and the Direction Home Akron-Canton Area Agency on Aging and Disabilities. A helping hand robot style. The mobile robots help out with tasks like delivering water and meals to residents, providing a boost for the Village of St. Edwards and Copley Health Center. As is the case at many senior care facilities, the 2 centers are experiencing workforce shortages, according to a recent media statement from Direction Home. A March 2023 poll by Leading Age found that 90% of nursing homes and 64% of assisted living centers reported severe staff shortages. In America, we have assisted living centers, but we don't have assisted dying centers. And that's, I think, what we might need as well. As to robots, well, let's read further. The nursing home, assisted living, and home care facilities were all experiencing shortages before the pandemic. And the pandemic definitely exacerbated things, said Matt Reed, Senior Vice President of Community Engagement for Direction Home. The robots have been named Eva and Rosie. They cost about $12,000 each, with an installation cost of $1,400 per robot and annual maintenance at about $3,600 each. I would think this would be a really good return on investment when facilities think about it. Yeah, and they don't even have to wear masks. There are 45 assisted living and 43 licensed nursing facilities in Summit County so far. 2 robots. Eva and Rosie help out with different tasks, including meal delivery, package delivery, serving as hydration carts, and cleaning up food trays in dining spaces. Wow. The joy on the faces of the residents when Rosie comes to work is immeasurable, says Amanda Huffman, administrator at Village of St. Edwards. Here is a picture of one of the robots with 2 of the residents. They're not facing each other. Do you have to face a robot? I don't know. Robots sing songs and deliver meals. There is a video. Robots sing songs, deliver meals. The robots are even capable of giving a musical birthday or holiday celebration. In a video released by Direction Home, one of the robots sings a Christmas song to appreciative residents who watch intently as it rolls across the room. All right, so let us look at the video of the robots in action. Here it is.
Welcome, everybody.
Well, we're going to go through all the speeches. No offense, humans, but robots are much more interesting. And introduce.
So I think we're ready for this show to take it on the road and see the robot out in the wild.
For your resident room, the kitchen, the dining room, central lounges, the dish room, laundry room. So I'm going to send these cookies. Being ready to deliver.
Okay, the robot has stopped and started and stopped singing. But it doesn't hand out the cookies. It just stops and somebody has to go get them and hand them out to somebody else. And they are just so full of joy, I can't stand it. And putting the cookies back on the robot. Honestly, I think I would go nuts listening to robots singing Christmas music all day and all night. Now, if you could program the robot to play the Kinks 24 hours a day, I might go for one. As a matter of fact, speaking of end of life issues and supported living, maybe we all need assistant robots. Maybe it'll be part of Medicare. It'll bring you your prescriptions, remind you when it's time to get them refilled, walk the dog for you, do all kinds of stuff. Yeah, we all need robots. That's the solution to end of life situations. Not. We need care. We need to understand what people need, who are the best people to give what is needed. It's just shocking to me that we would put up with robots. So let's talk about robots and end of life situations. Are we moving to a future where no one is allowed to die until they actually die, but they're allowed to have robots to tend to them while they're dying? I don't like that science fiction story. How about we try to stay as healthy as we can, as long as we can, and when illness and disease befall us, we have Medicare for all, robots for all, and we live a comfortable life until it's time for us to decide, bye, sayonara. I've had my fun, and now it's time to shuffle off this mortal coil. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. So let's talk about robots in nursing homes. On the one hand, there is a terrible shortage of people who work, probably because they're not getting paid enough, and probably because they don't have the best benefits, the best scheduling, all of those things that make you want to stay in the job. Not happening at nursing homes. So having robots who can work as long as there's power and get food and water to people, that's a good thing. What if it also frees up the humans so that they can provide the kind of care needed by people who are actually dying, who are going through the horrible suffering that someone like Rigg went through? That takes a special kind of person who should be paid a lot of money to be with people who are dying until the end. Now, I agree with Rigg. There should be ways to end your life when you know that all that's ahead is just horrible suffering. My own father knew that he was dying from interstitial lung disease, and he knew exactly how it would progress within his body. And he had told the doctors, I am not going on a respirator. When it comes time for the respirator, give me as much medication as you can. Don't put me on the respirator and let me die in peace. And that's exactly what happened. He was so brave. Now, in the United States, I think the different states have different laws about assisting people to die. There are plenty of people who don't have the physical power at the end of their life to even reach for a pill or a medicine. So having a system in place, like I think Washington, maybe Oregon, somewhere out in the great Northwest, where rationality seems and compassion seem to be the general rule, I think there are ways set up in place for people to go there and terminate their lives. You might have to be a resident for a certain amount of time before the law makes it legal. but it's certainly worth investigating. If it can happen in one state, it can happen in your state. And certainly, whether or not there are robots bringing your medications to you, what you want at the end is someone holding your hand and breathing with you as you slowly go off to the end, whatever that may be. So let us move on to an even more cheerful subject. All right, speaking of death, speaking of COVID, I just saw a study that says only 20% of eligible adults who are elderly and or immunocompromised have taken the latest round of vaccines, which means that they're putting themselves at severe risk should they get COVID and be hospitalized, because those are the people who are dying. You got to ask yourself why. If you know that you can just get a jab, 80%? Really? Is it like lemmings off a cliff? If all my friends are dying of COVID, I guess it's my turn now to do it too. So don't give me no vaccines. I'm gonna walk around without my mask. I'm not gonna take I'm taking all the risks because hey, you're only alive once, right? And our Heavenly Father is up there waiting for me. More death. So this is the headline I saw when I looked at the news this morning. Biden bypasses Congress to sell tank shells to Israel amid further fighting in Khan Yunis. All right, tank shells. Tank shells. It sounds so innocuous, doesn't it? We're talking about ammunition that is put into tanks so that Israeli armed forces can enter Gaza and commit genocide. That's what we're talking about. Sorry. Hey, there's the tanks. Tanks for the tank shells, US. I want the world to know that I do not support selling, giving tank shells to anyone, Israeli or otherwise. I'm sorry. If we're giving stuff to people, it should be good stuff. It should be food, water, the means to create your own sustainable dwelling in no matter what environment. So we should be working on wind and solar farms. What if we just said, here's massive aid to Gaza. We're going to make this into an eco paradise. It's going to be perfectly sustainable. You'll grow your own food. You will make your own energy. You will be safe. You will be happy. You can build your own homes the way you want them. You can organize the way you want to. Why would they need Hamas if you gave them all that? Why would they need Israel? Israel needs to separate itself from Palestine. Because it's religion, of course, you know. If you don't have any religion, then it doesn't matter who you live next to. When you got these crazy ass religious people basing their decisions on books that were written eons ago and that are all about getting revenge and causing death and destruction. Well, what's good about that? Nothing. So, you know what I'm going to say right now? Fuck you, Joe Biden and your administration for selling 14,000 tank shells to Israel without asking me for permission. The shells are part of a bigger sale that was first reported by Reuters on Friday that the Biden administration is asking the U.S. Congress to approve. Well, I'm going to write to my congressperson and my senators, and they will ignore my protests to these sales, but I'm going to do it anyway and pretend like being a citizen in the United States gives you some kind of power. I don't want to read any more of that. It just absolutely disgusts me. Okay, folks. We got some Ohio news. Are we ready for some Ohio news updates? Ta-da! This is kind of a bummer. And I'm sharing it because there are plenty of states eyeing what Ohio has done in terms of reproductive rights. Ohio's new abortion amendment is in effect, but doctors are reluctant to make any big changes. Issue 1, Ohio's new voter-passed amendment that enshrines abortion rights into the state constitution, went into effect Thursday. But while legal scholars say the new reproductive rights amendment is a big deal, doctors are still practicing under the same rules that were in place before the November 7th vote. Even though legal scholars say laws like the 24-hour waiting period to get an abortion are no longer constitutional, doctors say they don't want to get involved in a legal fight. Dr. Jeannie Corwin, an OB-GYN in Cincinnati, said there hasn't been any clear guidance given to doctors, leaving them in limbo. We don't want to become felons, end up in jail, or lose our medical license, so we will continue to follow all of the rules and laws that we have always followed. Corwin and other doctors said they'll continue to operate as they are now until a court rules something invalid or until state leaders, tell me we have actual leaders. We don't. Make it clear a rule is no longer going to be enforced, or the Ohio State Medical Board offers guidance. And Dr. Marcella Azevedo, president of Ohio Physicians for Reproductive Rights, says it's important to note the makeup of the medical board. One of its major players is Mike Ganadakis, who is the president of Ohio Right to Life. How is that possible? Only in Ohio. Two doctors who are also Ohio House members, Representative Beth Liston from Dublin and Representative Anita Somani, also from Dublin, and both are Democrats, have put forward a bill that would proactively get rid of more than 24 abortion-related laws that they believe are no longer constitutional. But Republicans have supermajorities in both the Ohio House and Senate. House Speaker Jason Stevens, Republican, Kitts Hill, has said he thinks it will be up to courts to determine which abortion laws will remain on the books. And John Fortney, the communications director for Ohio Senate Republicans, said his boss, Senate President Matt Huffman, Republican Lima, won't put forth an effort to change any law as a result of issue 1. We're not going to put an effort. Why should we? We don't have uteruses. Who cares? Most likely, what you know will happen, and you can call this speculation, but at some point, somebody will probably try to challenge the legality as part of issue 1. That won't be coming from the legislature specifically, Fortney said. Attorney General Dave Yost, a Republican who opposed the amendment and whom I oppose, put out a legal analysis before the election saying certain laws would not be constitutional if issue 1 passed. But Yost isn't taking legal actions that would provide cover for doctors who don't know what to do about laws, like the 24-hour waiting period. When asked about it at an event Thursday afternoon, Yost said, "Existing state laws still stand for now." Of course they do, because Ohio. So there are a number of statutes that are current that have been challenged prior to issue 1 that have been stayed. There are other statutes that might be in conflict, but are not necessarily in conflict with issue 1, that nevertheless touched on the general topic of abortion, Yost said. So the question of any individual matter, I don't believe that there is any pending injunction against the waiting period at the moment. That's a bunch of doublespeak, is it not? Yost said, absent a court order, laws should be presumed to be valid until they are challenged. What's a woman to do? There are already court challenges, and legal experts say there will be more. One case already in court is the state's ban on abortion after 6 weeks. That law was put on hold by a Hamilton County court more than a year ago. Yost appealed to the state's highest court, which has heard the case, but has asked parties involved to file briefs on where they think that 6 weeks ban stands now that the amendment has passed. What a bunch of BS. A group of abortion opponents that includes Phyllis Shapley Eagles, Janet Folger Porter, Faith to Action, the Ohio Christian Alliance, and several other anti-abortion organizations. I'm getting hives just thinking about these people, have filed a supplemental amicus curiae brief to support the state's appeal. That brief also includes Representative Beth Lear, Republican Galena, and Republican former Representatives Candace Keller and Ron Hood. In this brief, the groups and individuals have claimed the new voter-sanctioned amendment would allow infanticide. Because to them, every fetus is a baby. And not only is it a baby, it's got a little bonnet and shaking a rattle and it's going goo, goo, goo while still in the uterus. That's what they want you to feel at any rate. In the meantime, as they wait for clear guidance on how to proceed legally, Ohio doctors said they will continue to provide abortion services as they've been providing during the past year. And the doctors say they are providing more of them as they are now seeing additional patients from outside the state. It's not over until it's over. So those of you in other states who are contemplating following in Ohio's footsteps, please be prepared for what waits you once you have enshrined your reproductive rights in the Constitution. There's still work ahead as long as there are these creeps running things. I don't call them leaders. I call them creeps who run things. And now, one more update from Ohio, the other state ballot issue, issue 2. Also now legal in Ohio, marijuana. But you can't buy it yet because the politicians are squabbling about who gets to sell it, how much they can sell, whether people can grow it at home, all the things that were in the bill, the legislators want to change. Ohioans voted in November to pass issue number 2, officially legalizing marijuana for recreational use in the state. And while the law took effect December 7th, countless questions remain about where the new program goes from here as Ohio lawmakers look into changing portions of the statute. Now remember, the marijuana law is not a constitutional amendment. This is a statute and not an amendment. So it's pretty fair game for legislators to go in there and tinker with it. Let's see what they want to do. By passing issue 2, Ohioans voted to make the use, possession, and sale of recreational marijuana legal for adults age 21 and older. Dispensaries will be able to sell an array of recreational products, including flower, seeds, edibles, vapes, tinctures, oils, beverages, pills, and lotions. Potions. Anyway, in addition to being able to purchase marijuana products for recreational use, adults 21 and over will be permitted to grow up to 6 plants individually and no more than 12 in a household with multiple adults. And can I just say, as someone who's tried multiple times to grow some marijuana seeds, it ain't easy. I think you're going to need, at least here in our climate, you're going to need a setup that will probably cost money. And for me, I'm just going to go buy it. I've got the medical marijuana thing, so I can go get it. People who are looking for the recreational part are going to have to wait because they're still trying to figure out, the government is still trying to figure out how they're going to do this. And you can see there's all these links to different proposals to the change. Mike DeWine wants to do legal marijuana the Ohio way. A township bans marijuana sale cultivation ahead of new law. I'm going to summarize all these articles because let's get to the point here. The most practical way for them to do this is to allow the medical dispensaries to open up to recreational. Now, how they're going to do that, I don't know. I have a medical marijuana card. They're probably going to have recreational cards too, so they can keep track of who's using. You know, it's part of the system. What hoops you have to go through to get your high. Honestly, I could never have imagined a place like the Botanist when I was young and buying dime bags from strangers and had no idea what was in it. Now you know precisely what plant heritage line it comes from, you know, the percentage of THC, of CBDs. It's just amazing, the science that has gone into medical marijuana. If you don't want to smoke it, you can do other things. You can vape it, you can eat it, you can put it in a tincture. There's salves, there's drinks, there's gummies, there's just all kinds of ways to consume it. But Ohio has to get their act together so that other people can enjoy the use of marijuana, because face it, the medical aspect here in Ohio is very limited. It doesn't allow for use for a lot of things that people use it for, like general anxiety and depression. I'm sorry, people who are waiting for your recreational marijuana. If you have some, it's okay, but you can't go into a store and buy it just yet. There was a Beacon Journal story about a guy who was waiting on the doorstep of the Akron botanist on the day that it was made legal, only to find out, alas, can't buy it yet. Thank you all for stopping by. I'm sorry that it was so focused on death and dying, but every week I just sort of absorb what's happening and spit it out to you so that it gets to you on Monday morning. And the best thing you can do for the Dumpster Times is, if you like it and you know someone who else might like it, share it. And if you have some feedback, positive or otherwise, please leave in the comments. I would love to hear what my viewers think. Remember, I'm not trying to get monetized. I'm just trying to communicate my thoughts and feelings here in the final days of planet Earth. See you next time.